Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the monthly match wrap-up, a series where we look back at what I think were the best WWE matches of the previous month. In this video, we're going to be looking at May 2024, a month with a King and Queen of the Ring tournament and 2 premium live events, so there was a lot of in-ring action. Now, if you're a longtime viewer of this channel, you might be a little bit confused because you've never seen this before. And that's because this is the very first episode of this series. And with it being the very first episode of this series, I need you to let me know whether an episode 2 is even worth it. And the best way to do that is to leave me your feedback down in the comments below. Do you want to see a version of this for every single month? The plan is to make this video at the start of every month as well. So again, let me know your feedback down in the comments after you finish watching this video. I'm really gonna make it up to you as to whether or not this series lives or dies. Make your choice. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, ring the bell for notifications. If you're a wrestling fan, I know that you're gonna fall in love with this YouTube channel because we always upload daily wrestling content. And as you can see, the setup is starting to slowly take shape together. I still haven't been able to find the box that has my beard trimmers, which is why I look like a fancy homeless person. But I will eventually find them. I will eventually look a bit more presentable, but for now, this is what you're dealing with. Let's just start the video. You just knew that this match was gonna be on here. Cody Rhodes versus AJ Styles, Backlash 2024 in Lyon, France. You already know the story. This match boasts the greatest professional wrestling crowd that I've ever personally been witness to. I know that there is a portion of the population of WWE fans that didn't like this crowd because they thought that they took too much attention away from the match, but I think that is crazy. I think that the crowd absolutely elevated this already perfect match into a must-watch legendary affair of titans. It's still tattooed in the back of my brain. Sometimes I'll just be taking a dump in my new house and I'll just be thinking I know you do it too. But aside from the crowd being fantastic and the fact that I made an appearance during Cody Rhodes' entrance, this match was just really good and the best example as to why something being predictable is not bad. In a previous video this week, we talked about how some people said that the fake AJ Styles retirement angle was boring and lame and bad because they saw it coming a mile away, because it was predictable, because it was exactly like the Mark Henry segment 10 years prior. However, I've been trying to preach to the world that just because something is predictable, it doesn't mean that it's bad. And yes, we all knew that Cody Rhodes was going to win this, but it doesn't take away from the fact that we watched quite literally a perfect wrestling match with a crowd that turned perfection into a masterpiece of perfection. It really felt like both of these guys were so dialed in on their moveset. They were just so crisp and they were telling such a very easy to follow in-ring narrative as well. This is a match that I think just about anyone can get into, even people that aren't wrestling fans. In fact, I'm gonna actually add this match to my list of matches to use to try and get people to fall in love with professional wrestling. I usually try to keep that list to matches that are really short, but this is just such a perfect match to illustrate the sports atmosphere of WWE, because that French crowd made that match feel like a Champions League final a la Madrid. Not only is this amongst the best matches of all of May 2024, I think it is the best match of May 2024, and it is going to be in serious contendership when I do my end of the year wrap up and my halfway through the year wrap up in a few weeks. It's likely going to be one of the top 5 matches of the entire year, bar none, at the very least for me. And with how good this match was, the fake retirement angle, the fact that we're going to be in front of another rowdy European crowd, this has me tremendously excited for their sequel match at Clash at the Castle. One of the things that's going to make May 2024 likely stand out in terms of in-ring match quality is the fact that we had the King and the Queen of the Ring tournaments giving us episodes of Raw and SmackDown that were less heavy on dialogue and less heavy on backstage segments and more heavy in in-ring matches and in-ring storytelling, because there would be 2 to 3 to 4 tournament matches every single episode. And we do have a few other King of the Ring tournament matches on this list, but in my opinion, this is actually the best one. Ricochet versus Ilya Dragunov, the opening round, and Ilya Dragunov's main roster debut. Yes, I know that he had an exhibition match with Shinsuke Nakamura in the Raw after Mania, but that doesn't count as like his proper call-up. If I told you that Ricochet and Ilya Dragunov put on a banger. Does that surprise anyone? I don't think so, especially like if you are in the know of professional wrestling, you know what these two guys are capable of producing. On top of that, like they are just the perfect type of wrestler for one another because they can make each other's movesets look so awesome and deadly at the same time. I think between Ricochet and Ilya Dragunov, we might be looking at two of the three best sellers in the WWE today in terms of physical selling, because I have these two guys and JD McDonough as the best physical sellers, and the best psychological sellers to me is Randy Orton. Anyways, I'm getting off topic here. This match fucking ruled. It was so good that to me, it kind of ruined the expectations for the rest of the King of the Ring tournament because I expected matches this good for the rest of the tournament. To be fair, for the most part, they delivered matches that were as good or maybe not quite as good as this for the rest of the tournament because they did kind of start on a bit of a high note here with Ricochet versus Ilya Dragunov. It's almost as if the WWE doesn't realize what a gem they have with somebody like Ricochet, that it took just him having a 5-star match against Ilya Dragunov for him to start getting more matches, more screen time, and better storylines on TV, because we're seeing a lot more of Ricochet beyond just putting on a good random free for TV match. Frankly, I think these guys should continue to work together for like the rest of the year. They're just so good with one another that I would always be excited if Ricochet versus Ilya Dragunov is on the card. I think the only thing that I would ask of the future of Ilya versus Ricochet is that at some point or another, they allow them to do this on a premium live event where they're not as restricted with commercial breaks and whatnot. But yeah, again, I'm going to reiterate, I think that this was the best match of the entire King of the Ring in terms of in-ring work. Just so that you remember, Sheamus versus Gunther, which was an amazing free for TV Raw main event, happened on the same night as the previous match that we were just talking about, Ilya Dragunov versus Ricochet. That was a banging episode of Monday Night Raw, and one of the beauties of this King of the Ring tournament that they gave us such great matches throughout all of Raw and SmackDown. Matches like Gunther versus Sheamus, Ilya versus Ricochet really made Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown feel like they had to be must watch because you could get a premium live event quality type of match at any moment because of the tournament. And that is what we got with Sheamus versus Gunther. This was a very, very good match, albeit nowhere near as good as their previous matches of their trilogy or quadrilogy if you want to include the triple threat match at WrestleMania. Out of all of their matches, this is the worst one that they've had, and it's still amazing. The big complaint that I have about this is that this really didn't need Ludwig Kaiser getting involved and damaging Sheamus's knee to set up for the half Boston Crab for Sheamus to tap out. I really feel like Sheamus shouldn't have tapped out. He should have just passed out to a regular Boston Crab without his knees having to have been worked on by Ludwig Kaiser and outside interference. But again, that's nitpicking, because even with that, I still think that this match was just truly spectacular. This is a type of match that I think will always be synonymous with this era of professional wrestling, which is big meaty men slapping meat. Ever since I've started watching professional wrestling, they've never let big boys like this go the way that they do in today's landscape of professional wrestling. They've always been very limited in terms of what they've been allowed to do in the ring as big men. But nowadays, we are seeing these guys just put on classics and demonstrate their real athleticism, encompassing that with their giant size and strength. And Sheamus versus Gunther on Monday Night Raw, first round of the King of the Ring, was a perfect embodiment of that. Again, it didn't need the outside interference, but even with the outside interference, this match was absolutely phenomenal and one of the must-watch matches of May 2024. Sticking with the King of the Ring tournament, I think the best match on the SmackDown side was Randy Orton versus AJ Styles. And of course, these two put on a classic match. It is kind of crazy that all of like the craziest best matches happened on the opening round of King of the Ring. Like, this has no business being the very first match of the entire SmackDown bracket. That's crazy. This should have happened deeper in the tournament, especially of course with how popular Randy Orton is and how hot AJ Styles was coming off of Backlash, because he had just come off of Backlash and then immediately lost to Randy Orton. It was a bit peculiar, but at the very least, it's setting us up for this very intriguing false AJ Styles retirement angle. But just like the opening matches on Monday Night Raw side of the King of the Ring tournament, this match was an absolute banger between two of the best to ever do it. It's to no one's surprise that Randy Orton and AJ Styles put on a classic match. They've had matches before, but for some reason, this one just felt a little bit special. It almost felt like they were trying to one-up all of the great King of the Ring matches that had happened a few days earlier on Monday Night Raw, like Gunther, Sheamus, and Ilya Ricochet. Because they were out there almost with like a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, because they were pulling out moves that I hadn't seen them pull out in quite some time. And there was no shenanigans here. It was just a beautiful, clean victory from Randy Orton and a beautiful performance from both of these guys. And again, this does, in my eyes, give it some extra points. It was on free TV. It was available for everyone. We've been on free television here for the last little bit of this video. Let's go back to the premium live events, because that is typically where the best matches are supposed to take place. And let me give you what I think was one of the better matches of this past King and Queen of the Ring premium live event, that being the champion Cody Rhodes defending his WWE Undisputed Championship against Logan Paul. And you might be surprised that I have this match on this list, considering how critical I was of the ending. And I continue to be critical of the ending. However, just because I think that 1% of the match, even though it was the ending, was bad, the other 99% was a classic in my eyes. If you're wondering what I didn't like about the finish, I didn't like the fact that a celebrity got involved. And it's not just me saying that celebrities shouldn't get involved in WWE. I mean, that's a tale as long as time itself at this point. Celebrities get involved with the WWE. The problem is that this is like the Jon Stewart effect, in that they're not going to have a next step with this. They're not going to pay this off in any capacity. It's just going to be a one-off interaction between the Saudi Arabian comedian and Logan Paul. Maybe in the next Saudi event, they do something, but the likelihood of that is probably pretty slim. But in terms of next steps and continuing narratives, there's nothing for us to go off of with that involvement from the comedian from Saudi Arabia. I'm sorry, I always forget his name. But I'm not going to talk about that. I've already harped on that enough. The match was absolutely phenomenal. I think Cody Rhodes at this point could just have a 5-star match with his eyes closed on a premium live event, because he is now back to back having unbelievably good matches at premium live events ever since WrestleMania 40. One of the complaints that a lot of people had about this match was that this was a prime example of Super Cody kicking out of like the most ridiculous things. I'll give it to you. It was pretty nuts that he kicked out of the brass knuckles to the gut, and then the frog splash from the outside to the table on the outside, and then being rolled in for a frog splash only for him to kick out. That was pretty insane that he kicked out of all of that. But whatever, man. Sometimes you have to suspend your disbelief with characters like Cody Rhodes. I did it for a really long time with John Cena, and I'm still around. I'm okay. But between the chemistry that these two had, the awesome spots, vertebraker, for God's sake. They pulled out a freaking vertebraker, but also the in-ring narrative of Logan Paul being this child that can't stick to his words and not using the brass knuckles. I really liked all of it and how it came together in terms of a narrative piece. I would love to see Logan Paul versus Cody Rhodes work again in an environment that feels less like a really, really glorified exhibition match, because at the end of the day, especially the ending made it feel that way. Here's a sneaky good match that's gone under the radar because of how good AJ Styles versus Cody Rhodes was at Backlash, because that's obviously the match that everyone talks about for that show. But Kevin Owens, Randy Orton versus Tama Tonga and Solo Sikoa in what ended up becoming a street fight was fucking phenomenal, dude. The best decision that they could have made was to add the stipulation to this match. It felt a little bit odd that these guys that had been at each other's throats, trying to tear each other's heads off, fighting backstage, that cannot be controlled by any authority figures in the WWE, we're just gonna go out there and have a regular ass tag team match. So I am so happy that whether it was a last minute pivot or always the plan all along, that they decided to make this a street fight, because it elevated this matchup tenfold in my opinion. I know Tonga Loa isn't everyone's favorite member of the Bloodline, but I did like the plot twist at the end with Tonga Loa coming out, because so many people were expecting Jacob Fatu, and I'm sure Jacob Fatu is still somewhere around the corner, illumin, getting ready to involve himself in some sort of Bloodline match. Not only did we have the plot twist at the end, but we also had insane spots, tables, weapons, Randy Orton being just a master technician and just such a good psychologically superior character in this on screen, because he is just so good at manipulating the viewer's emotions. But I'm telling you, if you haven't given this match a rewatch, it is worth a rewatch. It is a very, very good car wreck of a match. Next up, we have Gunther versus Randy Orton, the finals of the King of the Ring tournament that took place at the King and Queen of the Ring Premium Live event. The best way that I could describe this match, and I've used this analogy before, it just sort of felt like there was two supercomputers or two super geniuses trying to outmaneuver and out-strategize one another. And when we have that type of wrestling psychology in the ring, it makes both guys pull out their best game. Not necessarily doing the craziest spots, but it was a lot of methodical targeting of body parts. It was a lot of using really stiff movesets, like seeing Randy Orton pull out some nasty looking European uppercuts. Seeing Randy take chops was just not something that I was expecting either. But in all honesty, this was a masterclass of professional wrestling between two of the best in the business today. One of my favorite moments from this match was the fake false finish that they had halfway through the match, where Gunther is going through his entire finishing sequence, hitting signatures, about to hit finishers. He then eats an RKO, and that would typically be where the match is over. And if it ended right then and there, it would have made a tremendous amount of sense. But after Randy hits the RKO, Gunther slowly rolls out of the ring. And then after that, we have another 10 minutes worth of amazing in-ring action. I know the finish has a lot of people about this match, but I do think that whether it was intentional or not intentional, it does add to the allure, and it does add to me wanting to see this match again, because the first time around was truly phenomenal. And I'm so incredibly happy that they added the stipulation of whoever wins this goes on to SummerSlam to face their respective champion for a world championship match, because before that, to me, it was a foregone conclusion that Gunther was going to win. But when they added that stipulation, shit, Randy versus Cody Rhodes at SummerSlam made a lot of sense too. So then now I had no idea who was going to win. So the WWE did a great job at playing with our expectations, something that we thought was obvious. All of a sudden, before it started, wasn't so obvious, which added to the drama as a viewer. Here's what I think was far and away the best women's match of May 2024, in a month where I do feel like the men did outshine the women, and the women in previous months had been cooking the men. But in a sea of fantastic men's matches in the month of May 2024, this truly stands out as a beaming light of how good women's wrestling is. Tiffany versus Bayley versus Naomi was one of my favorite types of triple threat matches, which is a triple threat match where all three people that are in the match are consistently involved with the offensive moveset, as opposed to it just being consistent one-on-one matches with somebody left out on the outside. And I know that a lot of people have a problem with the finish, with it being a roll-up finish, but I think it was the best way to finish this match, with all of them looking strong, because even though Naomi took the pin, she took the pin because she was outsmarted and out-strategized by the champion, the more veteran Bayley, as opposed to being knocked out or something. And this was a very good match that, just like AJ Styles versus Cody Rhodes, was significantly elevated by how hot the crowd was for this match from beginning all the way through the end. This was a great showcase for every single one of these women. They all looked like a gazillion bucks in this match. Tiffany Stratton looked like a surefire world champion. Bayley looked like a legitimate world champion. And Naomi looked like somebody that if at any moment the WWE wanted to put the title on her, no one would really bat an eye. That's exactly what you want to get out of these types of situations, where somebody is likely to come out looking weaker than they did when they came in. But this wasn't the case here. The finish was truly brilliant in my eyes. I personally really like Sami Zayn versus Bronson Reed versus Chad Gable for the Intercontinental Championship. I know that there are some critics out there that don't think that this match was very good. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I just have a bit of McDonald's taste, because I thought that this was really good. I like this match because, similar to what I just said, it was the type of triple threat where all three guys were involved in the offense. I love how fluid the transitions were between moves. Like, for example, we had the human centipede ankle lock. We had the consistent back and forth with all three guys hitting each other with German suplexes. We had the Tower of Doom segment. There were so many awesome, really memorable moments that involved all three of the guys at the same time. And that to me is a sign of a good triple threat match. To no one's surprise, Sami Zayn was fantastic in the ring. Bronson Reed shocked everyone, pulling out some Rey Mysterio-like moves, where it's like, how the hell does he do the shit that he does? And then I really love what they were doing with Chad Gable and his storyline with Otis, trying to make sure that Otis, comes over to the dark side, all of that backfiring, and that being the reason why Chad Gable was left out of the decision and Sami Zayn was able to take out Bronson Reed. In terms of that narrative, I thought it was delivered incredibly well and did set us up for what is the eventual money match between the rematch of Chad Gable versus Sami Zayn. Was it predictable? Yes, but again, say it with me, predictable is not bad. Another free for TV match, I'm sorry to do this to you, but it's once again Ricochet versus Ilya Dragunov in what was shaping up to be potentially an even better match than their King of the Ring match. However, it was then interrupted by Braun Breaker, something that would typically make me groan and be like, oh, come on, you ruined a really good match. But somehow his involvement in him destroying Ilya Dragunov and Ricochet actually elevated this, because it made everything matter so much more. This was far and away, even though he's been squashing people, the best showcase of Braun Breaker on the main roster so far. For him to do what he did to Ilya Dragunov and Ricochet was truly, truly insane. So I really like the involvement of Braun Breaker, him ruining the match and destroying everyone, but the matchup leading into it was, like I've already said, as good as the King of the Ring match that they'd had earlier in May. Yes, the match was good. I love the ending, but what this did was make me want more in the form of another triple threat match. I like triple threat matches, okay? You clearly noticed it from the end of this list. All right, folks, that's the wrap up for May 2024. Again, let me know if you want this for June 2024 by the time that this month ends. Let me know. But that's it. I'm done. Get out of here.